Hey guys, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in to Crypto Street Podcast. This is Crypto Dale coming to you from what appears to be Iowa, although the weather's not really indicating that this is Iowa. It's been in the 40s. I know everyone's dying to hear the weather update. So thanks for tuning in again. I'm always joined with my two homies, Prince up in God's country.
What's up, man?
How's it going tonight? Don't tell me you're just living.
Okay, I'll go with another one. I'm refreshing the score app, watching what's going on with this Clemson Alabama game. I'm superstitious where I won't watch really any of the games that I bet on. So I'll refresh the apps and to see, okay, what's the score? Yeah. Fun fact. I don't watch any of the games that I bet on.
For real?
Yeah.
Isn't that like half the fun?
Yeah, that's like half the reason I bet.
Superstition, I made a tweet today. Superstition's bordering on OCD. It literally, it's a legit thing for me. Like it's, it really invades my life with how I am.
It's that hockey background.
Yeah, well, they used to be real bad when I was a kid. So yeah, exactly.
Totally.
So, it's just a superstition. I do better when I'm not watching the games than when I am. So
yeah.
I think we all got Clemson on the spread today, so this is good so far.
I have the cowardly +7, but
yeah.
Which I saw the line moved all the way down to 5.5 before game time, so that 7 line is pretty dope, boys.
Yeah,
and especially with the score at halftime. So obviously, if you're listening, we're recording this on Monday night.
31-16 at the half. Clemson up on Bama.
Prince, I gotta agree with your superstitions. I was a baseball player, and it gets to the point where it's borderline OCD, psychotic.
And I never really thought about what superstitions. And it was kind of today. I was like, do people ever can you say it's oh well, you're superstitious to the point where you might actually have OCD, and I was like, is that a thing? I was just thinking to myself, I've never really thought of that. But then I was looking it up. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is an actual, it's a thing.
Totally. Okay. Killer, you got any superstitions?
No. When I was younger and I played some sports, I definitely did. Things related to batting stance and your routine when you go up to hit and things like that. Nothing major though, not nowadays. But yeah, anyway, it's just nothing I can think of. I'm racking my brain trying to.
I got one still.
Oh God.
It's so I'm almost contemplating not even going into detail.
Well, you have to tell us.
There's obviously multiple ways to get to my job.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, when I take a certain way, I always end up having a shitty day at work.
Yeah,
but sometimes I have to take that way.
Oh, that's never good.
No. I take the same exact way every time. Maybe that in and of itself is a super. It has no bearing on my day
though. Too funny. So tonight's guest, we're pretty pumped to have him on. It's rektcapital. You can find him on Twitter at rektcapital, REKT. So what's up, man? How's it going?
Hey guys, great to be on here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for being on. We're pumped to. I know everyone wants to know. Hopefully they've seen that article you wrote on alt season, but we're gonna get there. Let's not dive into that now. First, let's talk about how you kind of got into crypto. What's your background with trading, all the good stuff?
Well, sure. Initially, I just had a big. I had a lot of cash in, a reasonable amount of cash in the bank. Not really sure what to do with my savings. It was a point where I didn't really look into many investments, but I just kind of felt like my cash was, as easy to put into a sock and put under my mattress. It just wasn't really growing. Nothing was happening to it, I didn't really have a strategy or a plan on it. So I thought, my friend told me about Bitcoin recently. Maybe that's something to look into. And pretty much that's where things got started with Bitcoin, scaling into it slowly. Initially, I started off as a Bitcoin maximalist, like most people do. But then somebody told me about Monero. I was like, why is there another Bitcoin? What's up with that? And Monero was quite popular. At least my friend really enjoyed that particular coin. And I heard about Ethereum, and then I heard that there was even a faster Bitcoin. And I started questioning myself, why is there a faster Bitcoin? Why is there a even more private Bitcoin? Why is Bitcoin so bad? What's so bad about Bitcoin?
Mhm.
And that's when I started to learn about altcoins. And this kind of aligned with my education in TA and the time that I kind of went traveling. I quit my job at that time. And I started to think, well, if altcoins, you can make more Bitcoin with altcoins, that's when the light bulb moment, that was the aha moment in my life, I think,
Sure.
where I saw that there was a significant opportunity to be made as long as I was able to grasp and fully understand TA.
Mhm.
Yeah. What did you trade prior to crypto?
Oh, I didn't trade any traditional markets, like a few years prior to entering into the space. I was actually interested in this sort of online game called Celebdac. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it.
Nope.
Not me.
Basically, it was just very briefly, it was about buying shares in sports celebrities, so like Wayne Rooney or all these different footballers based on rumors or any news that they got.
Okay.
Wow.
It was a pretty neat idea, and
That's cool.
I really enjoyed that. It was kind of you can immediately see the parallels between trading,
Yeah.
crypto. And
Did you see that Rooney just got arrested again? Just really quick.
I saw that. Yeah.
like public
Drunk at the airport, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like the most like rowdy things you can get arrested for. Just partying too hard.
Yeah, his those are the types of rumors, the sort of developments which would impact that fictional price, and that was pretty cool to stay abreast of. I'm a pretty big football fan, so learning about these things, I was always on the pulse of that, and that's what sort of got me to understand when to buy low, when to sell relatively high. Obviously, you couldn't really do any TA or anything like that, but it did give me that sort of semblance of fundamental analysis and buying the rumor and selling the news.
Yeah, it's absolutely in the same vein to a certain degree, at least psychologically, I would say. Was that the sort of thing that was like charted? Like, were you looking at prices in that fashion, or is it more just kind of like what they're trading for at that moment?
Oh no, man! It was no charts whatsoever. It was just prices and just news oriented stuff. You couldn't really predict that sort of stuff. That's what I actually didn't really enjoy about crypto when I first ventured into the space, is that I'd look at the app, I'd look at Coinbase, and Bitcoin was going up one day. I'd look the next hour, Bitcoin was going down. So it was it was very frustrating to see all that randomness. What now is I understand as randomness and variance in price action. Just watching that variance and not understanding where it comes from, that's something that really frustrated me. And I wanted to understand: is there a logic? Is there a philosophy underpinning these price fluctuations? So for me, it's very important to be able to kind of build an intuition and a feeling for price, and that's what charts give to me. Whereas in that game that I was talking about, you had no semblance of that, and it was just pretty much like throwing a bag into the wind and seeing where it might stick to an oak tree or something.
Let's talk a little bit about your trading style. What how do you approach a trade, or just kind of stuff like that?
Sure. Well, fundamentally, one of the most ignored aspects by traders is risk management, and people talk about risk management. It's kind of a blanket statement, but I'm very focused on the psychology side of trading, and the thing with risk management is that it's very much an emotional process, and a lot of people don't understand that. When you don't think about risk in analytical terms, like calculating your risk reward, the very basic sort of thing you can do, calculate your risk reward and set up your risk parameters in a way that your prospect of reward and your potential of downside. Just framing those details makes it an analytical process, whereas otherwise you're perceiving your risk as feelings. That's a psychological theory, risk as feelings, which is perceiving your risk as emotions. So if you perceive your risk as emotions, you're just gonna get influenced by mood or whether it's a low probability scenario. So we'll perceive our risk to be in favor if it's a low probability scenario. So if price has already broken out, we see that green candle, our unconscious sort of speaks to us saying that, you know what, I'm building trust, I'm building confidence for this green candle. I feel like I can invest in this, I can buy this and trade it. A green candle just sort of speaks to us in that unconscious way. And it's important to set up your risk parameters ahead of time because you don't get influenced by these emotions in any way. So it's important to just start off with your trade, understanding how much you can gain and how much you can win. That's the very, very first thing that I kind of do with my trade.
So is that like at the forefront? Would you say is just like correct position type or sizing, and then having a stop loss or at least an idea of when you're going to get out? Because that's like one thing I definitely struggled with when I first started trading was, not knowing when to cut my losses and just kind of letting my emotions guide me, like reaching that point of like maximum pain and then cutting out. And maybe talk a little bit about how you develop that process too.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, whenever you enter a trade, you have to have some sort of framework that will be analytical for you. When you're in a trade, it can get quite heated. They call it the heat of the moment for a reason. It can get quite heated. You can get quite emotional, and you need to have a strategy that will guide you, a system that will guide you fundamentally to your goals. And your goals can be precise in terms of TA. So it might be the top of a trend line. It might be just breaking out through a pattern. It's all about just having that strategy in place so that it can guide you analytically and so that no emotion is involved, because the moment emotion is involved, your logic is kind of out the window. So it's all about having your goal set, your trade set up, understanding when to exit the trade, because you can set a stop loss below the bottom trend line of a pattern, for instance. For me, understanding when to set a stop loss, it was all about looking at the pattern. Are there a downside? Is the bottom trend line being breached in any way? And I realized over time a wick is okay. So sometimes you'll just get that wick and then price will rebound back into the pattern and not breach that bottom trend line. So it's very important to just adjust your stop loss below that wick, account and accommodate for any volatility to the downside. And that's how you'll stay in the trade. Of course, you have to understand that sometimes that volatility will be too much and you'll get stopped out. But it's ultimately all about staying within the pattern. And that's kind of how I learned how to trade with stop losses. Look at the pattern, understand that there's a bottom trend line that can be breached. Sometimes it'll be breached by a wick with some additional volatility from Bitcoin. But ultimately, as long as there are candle closes on at least a 1 hour time frame within the pattern, then you're still good to be in the trade.
Talk a little bit about like time frames. What time frames do you tend to trade in terms of 5-minute candles, 15, 6-hour, daily, all the above? Just talk a little bit about that, because I think that's something people struggle with as well.
Sure. So like earlier on, I mentioned all that variance and randomness that comes into price when you're just checking your app, whatever the app may be. It's very important to not do that. It's very important to not look into randomness or variance, because it's just noise, man. It's just live incoming data. It has all these variables, all this variance, prices going up and down. There's so much noise associated with live incoming data on the 1 minute, the 5 minute, even the 15 minute. You know what? I don't really even trade those lower time frames anymore, because I noticed that it was just all noise. There's nothing substantive and substantial about that price action. What higher time frames do is not only do they provide stronger signals, and lower time frames provide weaker signals, but they smooth out the whole randomness and variance associated with price coming into the market. So if you don't want to be in that whirlwind of variance where price isn't making much sense, just look at the stronger timeframes, look at the higher timeframes. And for me, this always started with the 4-hour time frame. So whenever I was starting out in crypto, I wasn't entirely confident about trading. I knew that if I was trading the 1 minute, it would just destroy me. So I didn't really, I wouldn't understand what's going on. So looking at the 4-hour, things move much slower. It's more about being strategic rather than emotional, and just looking at all these different patterns. Trading the higher time frames will always yield better results, because if you look at a pattern on the 1 minute, for instance, or even the 5 minute, draw a pattern on any 5-minute chart and then zoom out to the daily, you won't even be able to find that 5-minute pattern that you drew, that 5-minute triangle. And that's just the power of zooming out. You gain that perspective, and trying to trade a 5-minute chart, it doesn't really mean anything in the grander scheme of things. That 5-minute, in my opinion, is just a small part of a larger, higher time frame candle, like the 4-hour, 8-hour, 6-hour, 12-hour. So for me, if it's about breaking out, if a coin is breaking out, my minimum time frame that I'll look at is the 1 hour. And a lot of the time I'll look for confirmation on the 4-hour, even maybe the 3-hour as well. But fundamentally, it's always about those stronger, higher time frames, because that's where variance, randomness is smoothed out. You've got stronger signals, and it's just worth your time, because it's all about time. It's an opportunity cost. What else could you be doing? Do you want to be looking at variance on the 1 minute time frame, or do you want to be somewhere remote, being able to be away from the charts? Just value your time. Look at the 4-hour, at least in the beginning. Looking at the 4-hour is the best way to go, and then work your way up to even the daily. So the 4-hour and the daily and the 8-hour, the 12-hour, those are my kind of favorite higher time frame patterns, or at least higher time frames. And that's where I'll spend most of my time, because I'll just strategically plot out all my TA, and then let that simmer, let that be, and then enjoy whatever I want to enjoy later in the day.
Nice. Rect, you put out a blog post on, it was when alt season, how to time the most profitable period in the cryptocurrency market. You kind of mentioned in there, some things to look for when alt season is approaching and whatnot. Can you kind of elaborate a little more on the article that you wrote and how you kind of derived with the points that you made in it?
Absolutely. Well, thanks a lot for reading it.
Yeah, no problem.
Ultimately, looking at Bitcoin, whenever you chart altcoins, a lot of people don't even look at Bitcoin, to which it's strongly correlated, especially nowadays in this crypto market, in this stable, extended downtrend. I think a lot of people, that's something they should initially start with. But a lot of people also don't understand the trends in Bitcoin dominance, in the altcoin market cap, across these sort of indices that people maybe don't even know of, or they've never heard of even, and they just simply don't understand. So my idea with these kind of articles, my article about market cycles, or even these correlations and different trends in Bitcoin dominance, it's all about improving people's knowledge and understanding, because with knowledge you can make better informed decisions that will be removed from emotion, and you'll just understand the market better, and that's always going to translate into a positive for you. So with Bitcoin dominance, in the article I talked about how altcoins are very strongly correlated with changes in Bitcoin dominance. And I start with the definition: what is Bitcoin dominance? And that's basically the amount of percent that the Bitcoin has in the market. So how many people are holding or buying Bitcoin? And if and this correlates to various interesting market behaviors, and there's a specific psychology to all of these market behaviors. If somebody's buying Bitcoin and holding it, they're not buying altcoins. So that means that Bitcoin dominance is going up and altcoin dominance is going down. Nobody's buying altcoins. If Bitcoin dominance is going down, people are selling Bitcoin. So what are they selling into? They're either selling into fiat, or they're selling into altcoins, or at least buying altcoins. so they sell Bitcoin to buy altcoins. So there are these very minute, or at least very almost secrets to trading that you need to know about. And Bitcoin dominance, these different trends are very important, because not only do they give you insight into how many people, roughly speaking, on a percentage basis, is holding Bitcoin, but it can also give you a very powerful insight into the market as to where if people are going into altcoins. And this is where, if you know about Bitcoin dominance, you can time the market in a way that's beneficial to you. Because people often answer or ask me the question, when moon, when out season, out's back, you know, that kind of thing. And the thing is that there isn't a specific date like New Year's Eve or Christmas. But what you can do is you can improve your knowledge. You can gain this additional insight and just look at Bitcoin dominance sometimes. And at this particular time, I spoke about it in the article, that we're at a very pivotal, very crucial time in the market. We are on the brink of an out season. I'm not saying. Oh yes,
you saying it? You're saying it. Oh boy.
Yeah, we are on the brink of out season, technically speaking. Of course, many people will, and you know, there are some technical arguments to say that, nah, out ain't back, man, out ain't back yet. But we are definitely at a very crucial, pivotal moment where, you know, Bitcoin dominance is at that 50% mark, 51% mark. And if you just look at very briefly at the chart, you can see that on the 19th of December, when we had that massive exponential rally to the upside in Bitcoin and in altcoins, we had the best out season ever, the most profitable out season ever. You know, it was Christmas for everybody it was literally Christmas for everybody in the crypto sphere. But it was a great Christmas at that. And on the 19th of December, Bitcoin dominance breached that 50% dominance level. And that's when people were selling Bitcoin en masse, and they were just selling so much into altcoins. Blindly so a lot of the time, but people are buying altcoins, selling Bitcoin, and this is what just said out. And we're at a point where this 50% Bitcoin dominance level can easily break to the downside. And hey, you know, history doesn't always repeat itself. But Mark Twain said that he was very cognizant of that. History doesn't repeat itself, but sometimes it often rhymes. So it often rhymes. And if we were to get that breach of the 50% Bitcoin dominance level, who knows? I mean, last time we saw a very accelerated downtrend to the downside. Maybe, you know, chances are there's a high probability that something similar could happen.
Prince, do you know who Mark Twain is?
I think I've seen a few quotes. I've seen a few quotes.
Correct. I just want to go on the record. You know, I've read your article. It's good. I just want to go on the record and say there's going to be a lot of people mad if you just jinxed alt season by calling it.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
But that goes with with it, right? And then if it happens, everyone can say, "Hey, he's the guy that started it."
What a position would that be? That would be great to be the person who called out season. But you know, I mean, I'm just trying to. I've always wanted to give a drama-free perspective, an objective stance as to what's going on in the market, and that's just what it is. It is what it is. What can happen is that 50% mark will be breached, and we'll see an out season, very likely. So until that happens, we won't see outs back. But I've started to see people on Twitter quote out back or out season. That hashtag has been pretty busy recently, and I'm just wondering, is that article influencing this, or were people talking about it before? Are people trying to build engagement? I'm not really sure what's going on. Are people starting to feel that, you know, altcoins are slightly moving? You know, Bitcoin recently broke out. It's looking pretty good. I haven't checked the chart most recently. I had that flagging. But, you know, things are starting to slowly align. And I guess people are getting a bit more optimistic about the space. And maybe this optimism, after a long time of just being downtrodden by this bear market. We haven't seen many alt seasons, unfortunately, in this bear market. So, you know, maybe this entire relief rally is giving us a chance to be a bit more risk seeking. And people are starting to say, you know what, I'm just going to buy a few more altcoins here. It's looking pretty good. Bitcoin's broken out recently. Maybe I can take my chances and see what happens. But, you know, we shall see.
I think, you know, I think some people you could say that there was an alt season, you know, it all depends on the duration, or not even the duration. You know, one day can mean alt season, how 1 hour if people make good money. So I do think there was some opportunity to make some money on some altcoins here in this bear market. So with that being said, I think we're going to move on to a segment we're going to bring it back. It's called Bullish Bearish. This is where we're gonna we've got 3 coins picked out, tokens, whatever you want to call them, and we're gonna give the price, and then you guys are all gonna kind of say if you're bullish or bearish on it, and then a quick reasoning as to why. Okay, so we'll start with Bitcoin. According to CoinMarketCap, it's at 4,005. Are you guys bullish or bearish on it? Start with Killer.
I was just looking at the chart. I'm going to go very near term bearish. I think we probably retest like the 3,500, 3,700 range ish. Just on the, I mean, if you zoom out a little bit on like a daily time frame or whatever, it just kind of looks like we're going to do that. I have not put too much thought into this, so take it with a humongous grain of salt, but I'm going bearish.
I think it's well, again, as is all things, it's a little dependent on what we get happening. It looks like we could be potentially a little retest here on the daily of that 40-60 zone on Bitfinex. If we want to pop out of this inverse head and shoulder that everybody wants to talk about, I would say, that probably bring us up about 48 or so on Bitfinex. I'm rather indifferent right now. I'm not. Of course you are. Yeah, I'm not taking any directional trades actually at the moment on Bitcoin. So, yeah, I would say I'm just indifferent. I'm not bullish. I'm not bearish. I'm just waiting to see, where we go from here, and then kind of make a decision.
Rekt, what do you think?
Well, at the moment, Bitcoin's really overextended. It's after that breakout from the triangle, it kind of looked. It's flagging at the moment. We're seeing some very long wicks. I'm not looking at Bitfinex. I'm just looking at Bitstamp, for instance. We're seeing some long wicks out of that bull flag at the moment. So, it's quite overextended on the 4 hours. So I'm just watching, price proceeds in steps, and I'm always going to look at that immediate step before trying to look at a broader prediction for price. At the moment, we're seeing that very long wick. Price is being rejected from breaking down of that from that bull flag at the moment, and I want to see what happens to this bull flag. But recently we did get that breakout. Everybody's looking at the inverse head and shoulders. I always try to avoid those sort of patterns and not look at them. For me, I know that in the short term, or at least within this short term period from mid-December, price for Bitcoin wasn't able to hold these highs for for at least 2 4-hour candles. It wasn't able to do that at these price levels. So this is the first time that we're seeing this sort of stable price action at these highs. And we only saw on Christmas Eve that price was at slightly higher highs. I think it was 4,200, where it was sort of there for 2 4-hour candles before getting that very strong downtrend. Now we're kind of seeing this consolidation within the bull flag, so it's kind of stable at these highs, but ultimately I'd like to see it retest the triangle at 3,800, 3,883. That's what I'd like to see for us to still remain bullish, but ultimately I want to see what happens to this bull flag in the short term.
Sure. Nice. All right. So the next one is Ethereum, currently according to CoinMarketCap at $149.57, $149.57. Prince, let me know, bullish, bearish. Start it off, buddy.
Well, I don't know, when's this hard fork coming up?
Next week, I believe.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much bullish until a few days leading up to that, and then yeah, sell. But yeah,
Sell
for
the
now,
fork?
yeah, pretty much. I'm bullish leading up to that.
Big Daddy.
Yeah, I think it'll have some. I think it's already, in my opinion, also had some effect on the price and the way it's gone, and I think it'll probably continue as we get closer. But I'm not one to want to hold through those type of events, so I usually sell a few days early.
Yeah, I'm not rushing to BitMEX to 50 times this, but I'm cautiously bullish on Ethereum.
Rekt?
Well, I try to avoid this trade. With each passing day, the probability of success is reducing significantly. We're seeing if you look at the chart on the 4-hour, for instance, we're seeing this sort of I don't want to say topping out, but we're seeing a curling in price action where it topped at 166, and since around the 3rd of January, we've been seeing this sort of kind of twilight sort of action where it's curling downwards, and I'm not too positive about this. Yes, I know that forks usually have this hype, but remember, guys, that we also see this hype kick in before the fork happens. A lot of people hold Ethereum or whatever other coin that's going to have this fork into the event, or even a day before the event. Sometimes that's just too long to hold that. So it's becoming more of a risky trade as each day passes.
And there is some, like I'm seeing some divergence that doesn't look too hot on the daily. So yeah, we'll see. It could be very well topping here as it is.
Prince, I already copied your bullish analysis. We can't be having new information now.
I'm just looking at the chart right now. But... Sorry, man.
It's okay.
Jesus. All right, last, the big one. Everyone wants to know about this. Ethereum Classic. Currently, hold on. I got it.
51% attacked.
I have to scroll down here and find it on CoinMarketCap. Currently at $4.92.
What's it down today? It's got to be down today, right?
It's down 7.8%.
Okay, yeah.
And just hold on.
I don't really like Ethereum Classic.
Time out. I just want to give a little disclaimer. Dumb is going to be on Wednesday. We're going to live stream it, and we're going to plan on going a little more in depth with this, the 51% attack and everything with him, given his mining background and stuff like that. So go ahead, boys.
Yeah, I don't really like Ethereum Classic to begin with. It's a berry coin, as Cash would say, short all berry coins. But don't always short them. But I don't know. It's not. If I'm going out there and I'm looking to buy a shit coin, it's definitely not going to be Ethereum Classic. So I'll just sum it up there, right?
So you're bullish?
No, no. I can honestly say that. I don't want it. No.
Yeah. So some time ago, several months ago, in Whale Reports, I called Ethereum Classic going to zero as a bold prediction. It was basically tongue in cheek, but I have to bring it up. I know people are going to hate this shameless self promotion, but I would not be surprised if it actually does go to zero. I just think, like you were saying, Prince, you can talk yourself into some altcoins, and you can kind of at least sell yourself on there being a use case. I don't see any for this. The thing is, it's like Ethereum with some kind of growth deficiency.
Berry has made the use case. That's pretty much it.
Well, and it's just it has no developers, no use cases. Yeah. It's not even immutable anymore. What's this? There's no point in this thing. And that was the only selling case was the immutability, and that's not even true. It's it's just
a berry. It's just a berry coin.
Zero. Yeah. Bearish.
Correct. So on the side note, I a couple months ago Rekt, go ahead. What are you on this? I'm assuming bearish.
Oh, I haven't traded Ethereum Classic in, I think it was since the fork, whenever that was.
Yeah,
and I've never traded it on the dollar pair. I've just looked at the chart. It looks pretty weak. It's grinding. Can't really make any new highs. It's kind of grinding slowly until there's a stronger market reaction. And at the moment, there isn't anything pointing that it could be a positive market reaction. But yeah, I just glanced at this, and I'm not too hot on the Ethereum Classic like you guys said. It's just
it's just
a coin.
there. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
All right, so that kind of wraps up everything we had planned tonight with you, Rekt. So thank you very much for being on, taking the time, giving some good insight.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot for having me. It was a blast. Really enjoyed coming on here. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah, so thanks everyone for listening. Remember to subscribe to our channels for Prince, Killer, and myself. Hootskis for the boys. Tip that waitress. Take it easy, guys. Peace out.